In February 1983, a horse was stolen from a stud farm in County Kildare, Ireland, with a ransom of £2 million. Conspiracy theories in the media pointed fingers at the Mafia, the IRA, and even Gaddafi, with some strange goings-on with An Garda Síochána. Oh, and did I mention his owner was the Aga Khan, who claims to be a direct lineal descendant of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. So what happened to Shergar, and why is it something that we know about today? Let's dive in. Greetings, pod fans! It's day 2 of Pod Vahida. Pod videos himself every day in April. And over the past year of lockdown, I've become quite interested in weird conspiracy theories and decided that it was time for me to have a crack at something new. Also, this is going to be a fairly long video, might split it up into 2 parts, just to keep it easy on me. So, why do I want to talk about this horse napping? Well, it's something that really interests me because I was born 8 years after this happened. And I know about it. I have no idea where I heard about it first, but when I hear the word Shergar, I know that we're talking about a horse that was kidnapped and no one knows where the body is, and I have no idea why. Or didn't until I started looking into this. It's kind of a ridiculous story and I'm excited to share it with you. So, let's go. And we'll start with the background. Shergar was a racehorse that raced twice in 1980, winning one and coming second in the other. Then in 1981 he raced 6 times, winning 5 of those. To put this in context, if you're like me and you have no idea anything about, horse races, these races had between 7 and 23 horses competing in them, and he won 6 out of the 8 that he raced in. That's a good horse. In his last race on the 12th of September 1981, he came 4th, and it was decided that he would retire and be sent to the Ballymanny stud in County Kildare. Time for him to grow old and do the nasty, as it were. In 1982, Shergar fathered 36 foals and made a lot of money. It appears that everyone wanted to pour some Shergar on them. Actually, that's gross, so let's just go with, lend me some Shergar, I am your neighbour. Yeah, that's better. Which brings us up to February 1983. Shergar is fully booked for fathering and more money-making when he's stolen, and as far as we know, never seen again. The theft was performed at around 8:30 on the 8th of February when 3 men entered the house of Jim Fitzgerald, the head groomer at Ballymanny. They told him they were here for Shergar and they wanted £2 million for him. Fitzgerald's family was locked in a room. They got Jim to load Shergar into a horse box and then had him lie down in the back of a van with his head covered by a coat while they drove him around for about 4 hours. When they finally let him out, he was 20 miles from the farm, and he had been given a code name that they would use in their future communication. This was King Neptune, and he was warned not to go to the police or his family would be killed. After being contacted, the previously mentioned Aga Khan chose not to pay the ransom for a number of reasons. He was only one of 35 owners at this point because he had sold a lot of his shares. He didn't believe that even if they gave the £2 million that they would get Shergar back, and he thought that if they just gave them the money, horse robbery would be really common from that point on, because it seems like easy money. Here, the timeline kind of splits into 2 simultaneous instances, because the thieves reached out twice, and these are happening in parallel. So, with the first one, this was on the same night that Shergar was taken, and the call came in before Jim was even back at the farm. This call was to a Northern Irish horse tamer, Jeremy Maxwell. On the phone, the caller demanded £40,000, but he later raised this to £52,000. However, they only wanted to negotiate with 3 racing journalists: Derek Thompson, John Oaksley, and Peter Campling, and they said they would meet them 2 days later in the Europa Hotel in Belfast, which was known as the most bombed hotel in Europe. And crazily, all 3 of these men agreed to go. Once they got there, they received a call informing them to go to Jeremy Maxwell's house and wait for further communication. Thompson had been told to keep them on the line as long as possible to try and trace the call. That call lasted 80 seconds, which unfortunately was too short. Throughout that day and night, there were a series of calls to the Maxwell house, and finally, at 1:30 AM, Thompson managed to keep them on the phone for 90 seconds. Just about enough to trace it, but the person that was in charge of doing the call intercepts had finished work at midnight and just gone home. 2 days later, at 7 AM on the 12th of February, there was another call where they said very little other than something had gone wrong, and Shergar was now dead. That entire instance of communication is considered to be a red herring, especially because the first call was before Jim could even get back, so it's assumed that this was just to keep the focus of the authorities in the north while Shergar was being moved to somewhere else. So now let's move on to the other instance of communication, where a day after Shergar was taken, they contacted the Ballymanny farm directly. When they called, they got through to Ghislaine Duran, a French man whose name I really hope I'm pronouncing correctly. He was the manager of the Aga Khan studs in Ireland. Unfortunately, since he was not a native English speaker, and the caller had a very thick Irish accent, neither could understand each other too well, so that call didn't go anywhere. But 90 minutes later, they called again, and this time they managed to communicate just by speaking slowly and working through that. On this call, the man demanded £2 million and a phone number for the Aga Khan's French office. This was given, and for the next 4 days, the risk and strategic consulting firm Control Risks handled the negotiations out of Paris, and on the 11th of February they asked the thieves for proof that Shergar was still alive, because at this point the media had caught on to Shergar being missing, and they were running with a story that he was probably dead. So they agreed that they could provide this, and they told him to go to the Crofton Hotel in Dublin and ask for messages for Johnny Logan. Stan Cosgrove, who was Shergar's vet, was the one who went along. And with him went a number of armed undercover guards. But when they got there were no messages waiting. Later on, they received a very angry phone call saying that they were real unhappy because of the presence of the police. The next day, the thieves contacted them again and told them they had the proof and it had been left at the Rossnary Hotel. This time, there was a package, which contained a number of Polaroids of a horse next to a copy of the Irish News, dated the 11th of February. Cosgrove, being Shergar's vet, took a look at these photos and, said it definitely was him, but it doesn't prove that the horse is alive. And in the next call, they expressed this and, asked for more proof. The response from the thieves was simply, if you're not satisfied, that's it. The call ended, and that was the last that was ever heard from the thieves. So that is the 2 instances of communication that went out. There is one more story that I want to tell before we get into conspiracies, which maybe I'll leave for the next video. Ooh, cliffhanger. So this part of the story is real interesting. It doesn't have much to do with the conspiracies, but it's just strange. So about 8 weeks after Shergar was stolen, Stan Cosgrove, the vet from earlier, was approached by senior Garda detectives, and they introduced him to a man named Dennis Minogue, a horse trainer. So Minogue claimed to have a contact in the IRA who had shown him a photo of Shergar, and Minogue told them that he could get Shergar back for a price of £80,000. So the Gardaí asked Cosgrove to help them in a sting operation to lure out the thieves with, look, it's money, and then, catch them while they're collecting this. And Cosgrove said sure. So on the 20th of July 1983, Detective Garda Martin Kenarns assisted in the operation. He put the money in the boot of his car in a remote village, which Minogue would collect once the horse had been released and everything was all good. However, the following day, Kenarns found the boot of his car forced open, the money was missing, Minogue had also disappeared, and that money has never been recovered. There was of course a Gardaí internal investigation, Kenarns was dismissed, and there hasn't been a whole load said about it, so either he was working with this Minogue character to just steal money, or the Gardaí just got bamboozled and they needed a fall guy and just claimed that he was doing this off the record. But yeah, I think that is just a wild twist and turn to this whole thing. And that's all I'm going to talk about today. The next part will be conspiracies. I'm going to go off script. There was a lot of reading here because I don't want to miss things out. Also, before people start jumping at me, I'm sure you already have, if there's any inaccuracies or things I left out, that is because I did my research. Yeah, I did a Google search, and I tried to put things into my own words. So in translation, things might have been lost, things might be incorrect. If there is something glaringly obvious that I'm completely getting wrong, please put it in the comments. Let me know. I do want to know. But yeah, that is the story of the Shergar disappearance. We will get into conspiracies and theories and what I think myself in the next video. But yeah, I just wanted to get this out of the way, and we'll do more in the next one. So yeah, Pod Vahida, told you I had plans. Look at me go. It will probably be a weekly thing. If I enjoy doing this and you enjoy listening to conspiracies, I might do just a little conspiracy video a week, but it will be next week by the time we get to the actual conspiracies. So thank you for watching. I hope you're enjoying April, and have a great day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Slán.